elevate your private brand to be your authentic self. Outward change first requires inward change. Nobody will ever treat you a certain way or think of you a certain way until you first begin thinking of and treating yourself in that way. The people in your life and business are nothing more than mirrors of what you think of yourself. If you want to change the kinds of people around you or the circumstances in which you find yourself, you must first begin thinking of yourself in a different way. The first mindset of this stage was to discover and define your authentic self. Without that, there is no tactic or strategy in the world that can change your circumstances. That's why the next step is to elevate your private brand to actually be your authentic self. You need to fully and deliberately immerse yourself in your private brand. That's when your authentic self will begin peeking through the fog of insecurity and doubt. So how do you do that? Well, again, the actual tactics you take aren't as important as activating the mindset that this is important and a crucial step in your brand development. The end result of this lesson will be that you're doing things that make you feel more like your authentic self, even if they are little things that seem insignificant in the grand scheme of things. We all had to learn to stand up before we could walk, and then walk before we could run. So first, let's learn to stand. The best place to start is with a feeling of ease. The exercises in this lesson won't be much help if you're anxious or stressed. When that's the case, it might be best to get some sleep and try again later. Ease is the essence of possibility. Ease is the foundation of all transformations. Without ease, there is no clarity. And without clarity, we're just struggling through the day with blinders on. So first, check in with yourself. Be sure you're calm and you feel a general sense of ease. There's a worksheet in the resources with suggested steps to achieve calm and ease. Once you're feeling ease, you can move on to the different ways you incorporate your authentic self into your everyday life. It's not hard, but you might have a strong inclination to do the opposite. You may have been not being your authentic self for so long that suddenly being authentic feels unnatural at first. So it'll take practice to get the hang of it. Okay, so now that I've told you that I'm secretly Batman, the Doctor, and 007 all rolled into one, I'd like you to notice that my personal heroes are not actually rock stars. I chose the individual people that I like to emulate for certain personal characteristics that they each have, and for the most part share. In relation to my authentic self, these three fictional characters all share the same traits that I most admire about myself. I see in them the best parts of me. I see the elements of my authentic self in them. Now, I have zero interest in crime fighting and international espionage, although a TARDIS would be pretty fantastic. So there are a few things that I like to do to elevate my private brand to be more like my true authentic self. It all starts with how I feel inside. So I never take any action on anything until I am 100% focused, ready, and connected to my core genius. Otherwise, forget it. Anything I do is going to be really hard. Anything that takes effort will require extra effort. Results will be less than ideal. Have you ever just been stuck on something? You're struggling and struggling, trying with every atom in your body to force something to happen, and it just won't. You just can't do it. And then maybe you come back to it the next day and it just happens nearly effortlessly. What's going on here? Why does this happen? On your first attempt, or first several attempts when you're trying to force something, it's like trying to fit a round peg into a square hole. It can be anything, in any aspect of your life or business. For me, I can think of times when I just can't get any of my clients to move on anything. People who want to start projects aren't ready. None of them. People who owe me money are nowhere to be found. Or I'm working on something like a website or a song or anything. It just isn't coming together. Nothing looks good. Nothing sounds good. It's just hard. My computer is too slow and It's not working right. In life in general, you have those days where everyone is just annoying. You just keep losing things or getting hurt over and over again. Or something as trivial as people on the road when you're driving just all seem to have forgotten the rules of the road and general courtesy. You know what I'm talking about. We have to understand, it's not the people on the road or at the store or at work. It's not the computer or the program. It's not your clients or your phone. It's not the weather. It's you. So how do you fix this? Well, it takes time and it takes a little persistence. For me, when I see that all of a sudden events like this are creeping up on me, I've learned to recognize that and realize I'm trying too hard to force something to happen. I'm no longer being easy about it. I'm getting anxious. So I take a break. Sometimes just stepping away from the task at hand for a short time is all it takes for me to relax and get back to feeling ease. Of course, there are degrees of uneasiness. Sometimes stepping away just isn't enough. I might need to just stop for the day and try again tomorrow. Sometimes a good night's sleep can do wonders to recharge your batteries and get you back in sync with your authentic self. But sometimes I'm way off track and sleeping and resting helps. But the moment I wake up, my mind races into overdrive over whatever issues have my attention these days. I might generally feel so overwhelmed that it can take a few days of deliberate effort and monitoring to get back on track. So I've developed some habits to help me stay in sync with my authentic self and to get back in sync if something really sends me reeling off course. My habits begin at night, every night. Regardless of the time, I always take a little bit of time for just myself before going to sleep. I might watch a funny or uplifting show or read for at least half an hour. Whatever it is, it has to be something that I find relaxing. And then, before I go to sleep, I try to think of things that I have to be appreciative for. My life and my family are my go-to items when I'm at my lowest, because no matter what, those are my lifeboats. But even when things are all going my way, I still do this and can get more specific about what I'm appreciative for. Like working on this course and having this business. That's a big one for me. Then I sleep, and in my dreams, I am a time-traveling super spy. When I wake up, even if it's just in the middle of the night for a few moments, I immediately try to think of things to be appreciative for. I start every conscious moment with appreciation for anything awesome or beautiful in my life. On days where I've been way out of sync with my authentic self, this might last about 3 seconds before my mind wants to remind me of what I should be worrying about. But the next day, I last longer, and longer on the next, until before long, I'm pretty much back in sync. And then on days when I feel in sync, I still do it so I can stay there. And this is exactly what they mean when they say, don't take things for granted. When things are going well, you still need to do this deliberate work. Otherwise, it'll be too easy to slip off course again when the next issue grabs your attention. Next, regardless of actual events happening at the time, I've made it a habit not to look at any outside influences right away. My phone, computer, tablet, newspaper, the TV, especially the news. Anything you see in your email, voicemail, the news, or Facebook are all things that have been set as important by somebody else, not you. You have the singular intention of being your authentic self today. That requires all of your attention. Those other things, they all have the singular goal of putting your attention elsewhere. Leave them off. I go as long as I can before I even check my email. Emails from my clients will only distract me from the task at hand, and I can't be my best value to my clients unless I am first in sync with myself, my authentic self. I never watch the news or read the newspaper, because there's never anything there that makes me feel better about myself or the world. So instead, I focus on my family. Make coffee and spend a little time marveling at my kids. If I can, I like to step outside and be out in nature. I go for a walk in the park or just stand out on my back deck. I talk out loud to myself. Now don't be afraid to do that. Your inner voice will be talking anyway. Speaking out loud focuses your thoughts. Your inner voice can ramble and say ridiculous or hurtful things if you're not conscious of it. Speaking out loud keeps you conscious of what it is you're thinking about. It helps you recognize when you're being hard on yourself. Now, I do all this every morning for as long as it takes for me to be excited about my day. Then I plug in and begin my action.